started here that I remember was when the Boys and Girls Clubs started, probably in the mid 80s or thereabouts, early 80s, and that was Ray Chambers and
golf outings like what?
well, the big one was when they brought in all the pros to play in the Boys and Girls Club outing here. They had all the name. That's when, Crenshaw played.
In terms of, say, Dylan Reed, did you ever take people out for Dylan Reed?
From Dylan Reed?
Yeah, I was just wondering if you used the golf club.
Oh, sure. I think I won the spring tournament with a guy named Bud Freeman who worked with me at Dylan Reed. They had to assign him a handicap. He didn't have a handicap even, but he was a great athlete. He was a tennis player, really, a squash player.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what year that was, but no, I'm sure if I had, some client that I wanted that I'd bring out here for sure,
Oh,
Yeah.
why not?
I haven't done enough metal research to think of any of them, but I had a lot of friends from Morristown Golf Club too, who was Billy Deere was the guy that was that wonderful golfer there, and he came over and played. But I can't think of any luminaries right off the top of my head because that part of it was all in these other golf courses.
Well, thinking of Morris County, you may remember that was originally started by women, and they wanted a club that they were going to run. The first president was a woman, and the women were on the board, and only later did the men get even asked to do a task or two, and then they took it over.
Yeah.
But it was originally for them. They wanted equal time.
Well, one thing that does kick into my mind, as I apologize for not having done enough thinking on this thing, is I think the Duke of Windsor played this course. I think he was a great friend of Charlie Englehart's, and Charlie brought him down here, and Charlie Engelhart wasn't a golfer, but there were a lot of people in that company of Engelhart Industries.
Well, the Duke definitely played here because Ann Alexander was asked to join the foursome.
Yeah.
She was a very good golfer.
Yeah. I don't think I ever played with him because I wasn't here that much, at that point.
And then Jane always loved to have parties, and she invited young folks, such as us, to come to the party. And there was the Duke of Windsor sitting over there.
Yeah.
And all the kids were down here on this end of the room. I thought, this isn't all bad.
I do, now that you say that, I do remember one thing that in talking to the Duke, I went to the dinner parties at the Engleharts and stuff like that, and he was talking about the golf course, and he had particular admiration for the 15th hole, and there is, if you're looking back in the history of the club, I think the Duke had a private golf course over in France, and he designed one of those holes exactly like, if you go to, I mentioned it to one of the former presidents of the club here, and he never followed up. I don't think I can pull it out of any memoirs I've got, any pieces of paper I've got, but I'm sure the Duke of Windsor copied the 15th hole for his golf course.
Isn't that something?
Yeah.
Because I think Dylan also had a private course. Didn't he have 9 holes on his property?
He had, and that's where, when I wasn't catching the train coming over here and starting early where I was learning how to play, having worked for the club, having worked for Dylan Reed, I didn't go up and ask the primary owner if I could play his golf course. He was a little bit of a severe fellow. And, but, the groundskeeper there was a friend of mine, and he didn't have a 9-hole course. He had a 3-hole course that you could play different ways.
Oh, okay.
And it was, great. You didn't have to, I could come on the way out, from the train in New York when I was over here practicing. But I wanted to just practice, I'd play that 3-hole golf course. I don't know who that was designed by, but it was well done.
Yeah.
One of his partners at Dylan Reed told me he doesn't think that Clarence Dillon ever played the golf course, but it was the thing to do in that area, to have your own private, he was something. he had a Rolls Royce that had one of those big root, especially made Rolls Royce, and but we're getting way shy of what you're trying to get used to. Yeah, it's really great. I do remember the redesigning, and Jim and I talked about it, of the 10th hole, because it was a hole that's you hit a long drive, you get over the bunker on the right, and then in the early days before it was redesigned, it wasn't such a difficult shot to get on the green because it was much closer to you. You could get the ball on the fairway, and so they put it up pushed it back up into the woods there, and I had nothing to do with the redesigning of it. Nobody asked me about it, but it's a far, if it's a different hole now than it was before, and it's much harder to get on in two. But I don't remember 15. 5 sticks in my mind. There's another one, Jim, that was redesigned too. No?
I think we got 17 of the 18 original greens has gone back over time. So.
Oh no, 5. It's got to be. It got to be original, with the one with the hump in the middle of it.
Yeah, that's original. Yeah.
I think they messed with where the hump was some.
Wasn't the hump the racetrack?
Yeah, well, I don't know what it is. It's a fifth green with a big bunker in the back of it. In my day, if you got behind that thing, you couldn't even see you could see the pin, but you couldn't hit directly at it because it'd go over the green for the momentum. So what you do is knock it into the other side bank, and I don't know whether they recreated that side bank so it kind of would come around the corner. Maybe that went,
Doak was very interested in that mound.
Yeah.
Do you remember the one at Garden City they had, and they took it out, and he came over. He was doing work at Garden City at the time when he came here, and he said to the superintendent, he goes, "Do you ever have any problems mowing this thing?" And they said, "No, we just run the mowers right over." He goes, "I thought so." He had tried to talk Garden City out of not taking the mound out, a similar mound, which they did.
Oh.
But whoever, and there were a couple. There were 3 or 4 South Africans that, because of Englehart's connection with South Africa, that came here and stayed with Englehart, who were pretty good golfers, and they all marveled at the course. They thought it was absolutely wonderful, and I can't remember their names or where they came from, but they came from everywhere.
Well, Richdale was one of them.
Yeah, he was one of them, but he wasn't much of a golfer. I don't think I ever saw him on the golf course, to be honest with you. But he ran Englehart Industries for a while, and but there must be somebody that can help you get back into the connection with the people, with the Engleharts. I don't know who's alive now, Jim.
I don't think any of the family played golf.
Yeah.
I don't think.
No.
All the girls out.
No, nothing to do with that. But they had a whole crew of them that worked out here. Not mechanics on a golf course, but people who lived out here. Richdale. Oh gosh, I can't remember right at this moment who the other
DeWitt
guys were.
Alex on.
Well, DeWitt, yeah, I don't know whether did he work for Englehart? Did he? Well, he certainly would know. But my recollections are less on the people side. But just always have this people who boast to me about their wonderful home golf course, and I said, well, we've got one right here at my home golf course. And if you're ever out there, let me know. I'll take you and we can play it together. So,
That's great.
yeah.
Well, your grandchildren like to play here. They come from different parts of the country. You got Tony Brady down in Philadelphia is a good player, and young Nick Cutler. They all like coming here. They come here for the fall invitational.
And the in-laws,
Yeah.
not the in-laws, not my in-laws, but my grandchildren's are playing here now. One was Elliot. My sister Elliot was playing here yesterday.
Yeah, Elliot
Campbell. Elliot Stewart, her name is now.
Yeah. Oh, Elliot Stewart. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
And,
fun for you.
Oh, very good. But I think anybody that ever played this course as a guest of mine, marveled at it, you know, so it was, well, when you think of the, you know, particularly the back nine, which is such a different,
Yeah.
I don't know,
Do
Jim,
you
how
remember the quarry?
oh, sure, I mean, you can't forget the quarry if you played this golf game. That was changed too by some committee here, I think, Jim. I may have been just the flooring of the client, but,
Yeah, they
and they put
dredged
a
the
back
pond.
tee, so it wasn't, you know,
Yeah, they dredged the pond and they put the dredge spoils into the pond. I mean,
They
into
put the what?
they put the dredge spoils, instead of hauling off-site, General Winston put them all into the quarry, and that was sort of the end of what you
Yeah,
remember as the
yeah.
quarry.
yeah,
I think that was down in the 60s, maybe.
yeah.
But it's
I
pretty-
don't know of any course of the really great ones, and I don't mean Somerset is one of the great ones, but that has two greens like 5 and 13. I mean, when you're hitting a ball into 13, you got to think, where you want to be, you know. I mean,
Yeah.
so but you know, I think I would be surprised. You know, it would be fun for somebody to do it that had two greens like that had rolls in the middle of them. Now they tilt them in the modern day play, but I don't think they're as devastating as they are on 5 and 13. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, you know, terrific. It's a terrific course. It's a terrific club, and it's changed so much during my years from a place that was just a small country club to something with a program for tennis and golf and you know, some darn good tennis players now, you know.
Yep.
So, well, if anything else comes to my mind, I'll give you a ring, but
Well, I think now, certainly, we all are conscious of the fact that there's a younger group, and they are very, very supportive in terms of numbers. And when you see a gathering outside, there must be 200 people having dinner or picnic.
a much higher degree of play than in my day. I don't know about you, Jim, but
Well, I think with Louis, what you're doing here is very important, because what I noticed is I think people really appreciate this place, but they don't have the history. And so I think part of preserving what is here, if that's what the goal is, and I think it should be, particularly on the golf course,
Yeah.
knowing history goes a long way.
some pictures of it. I remember I was over at the Somerset the PGC, the Pittsburgh Gladstone Bank the other day, and when you come in to see the president there, you go through that thing where they, before you get into the executive offices, they have pictures of what the bank was 30 years ago. So I think in trying to put this project together, if you could get some of the background, this is on the golf side, would be useful. The racetrack on 7, for instance, you know,
Right.
and you know, I mean, there are some unusual holes here.
Oh, very much, absolutely.
I wonder if there's any club that turned the terrain into the well, that's certainly Augusta National, which I'm lucky to be a member of, is certainly it was a place where people went for tuberculosis and stuff like that. But so that they have that background. But I wonder, you know, of the great courses, you know, whether they took a piece of farmland or a piece of land like what was here, and made it into a golf course. You know,
I think in many
when did it start? The golf course?
this golf course,
1918.
Yeah.
So that was 7 years after the National was built. And I think, as I said earlier, I think that what happened out in Southampton compared to what was, I don't know the other course that was over, the Lake Club, but some of the descriptions were that what happened at National changed the thinking to build this place.
This was a 9-hole course to start
No,
with.
the 9-holer was over at the Somerset, at the Lake Club.
Well, that's when you said that,
Yeah.
it ticked off my mind. I think that the people they brought that idea that they couldn't build a golf
Right.
course at the golf course. At the lake club, there wasn't any room.
And I don't think it was much of a golf course either, that was over there.
I never played it.
Nine-holer, and so they were influenced, I think, to a great degree.
Well, I wonder who did create it.
I've read some history of it.
It's around, that
Yeah.
history. I've seen
Yeah.
it, Jim,
Yeah.
but
Me too.
I couldn't produce it. You know, I know now.
But this is quite an undertaking when they decided to get this piece of property and bring Tillinghast in and build this thing.
Well, and as you said, he would shoot from the hip, so there were no blueprints, he was sort
Right.
of doing it this way.
Who did design the original course? Do we know?
Tillinghast.
Tillinghast,
Yeah,
of course,
yeah,
of course.
yeah.
Well, I wonder who went and got him to do it, because he's certainly one of the great architects.
I don't know who went to get him.
They had two pieces of property, and from what I've read, that they had an option on this, and they had an option on a piece of property in Far Hills.
I
And
know, I
they
didn't know
hired
that.
Donald Ross to go figure out which site was gonna.
And they turned the thing over to Tillinghast
And
afterwards?
somehow it ended up going to Tillinghast. I don't know whether he got too busy, but Ross picked this one. He was hired for a fee, and he chose this site. And you know, if you think about the elevation here up on the Burnsville Mountain versus down in Far Hills, I always say to people on the hottest days of the year up here when there's always a breeze, I said, make sure you say thank you to Donald Ross,
Yeah.
because it'll be hotter than hell down in Far Hills today.
Well, I think Ross built many more courses than
Yep.
Tillinghast did.
Yep.
But I would think of the Tillinghast, of courses that Tillinghast built, that this would be one of the top ranked. I don't know. I mean, there's some ones that were done after.
Yes.
I mean, I think this was one of his earliest courses.
Yep.
There's one up in the Adirondacks, which is about an hour away, it was towards Plattsburgh. It's
I played it,
It's a
yeah.
public course.
Yeah,
And
I played it.
the first time we played, we thought, oh my God, there's our fourth hole. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
yeah, no
Right.
question about it. I used it because it's right near the Saratoga racetrack, I
Yeah.
think.
Right.
Yeah.
So I didn't get this quote correctly earlier, but I saw this from Doak. He said, "The greens at Somerset Hills are the most bold and varied set of putting surfaces Tillinghast ever built.
What was the last word? What kind of?
The greens at Somerset Hills are the most bold and varied set of putting surfaces Tillinghast ever built."
It has to be true if you
Yeah.
think about them all.
Yeah.
Just things that the relationship between the club and the town in the 4th of July things here, where the Somerset Hills had a display on. You know, that was a big thing for all of the kids my age. We used to come over here and watch that with great awe.
Absolutely.
And of course, they had people from the town started to want to be here, and I think that was a little bit of a problem, you know, because they didn't want to get over, just to have a huge group in number. But I know a lot of them walked up alongside of the road there.
Oh,
Yeah, and I don't remember. You know, I wasn't involved in the club work at that point of thing. But I think they wanted to make sure that the people from the town could see it, but they didn't want them overwhelming the club at the same time, you know, so.
But I think at that point, they had dancing in here after dinner, after the fire.
For that? Oh, you bet you,
Yeah.
yeah. And my wife.
That's great.
And, but the quarry was, the quarry's in an unusual place too in a golf course. You know, I don't know, I know they pushed the tee back, didn't they, Jim? I must have.
That upper tee, I think, was that a General Winston tee that they put up, we had to walk up the hill to? Because every one of these greens, one of the great things about it, Pete Bostwick used to say this about the old courses, why he preferred them so much, is that you would literally fall off the greens onto the nearby tees, which is one of the aspects of this course.
Yeah.
You can't do this modern day because of liability, but that's the way the older courses really work.
Well, I never thought about that. That's
Yeah.
true, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, think about it. You go off the back of the first green, you're right on the second tee, or you go off the second green, you're on the third tee, and so that's one of the big
But the
reasons.
quarry, you had to shoot from below, you never had that option, and then they stuck that extra tee.
I think that was a General Winston tee they put up there.
Yeah.
But that,
Oh, yeah, no, we played down below and got moved up.
Yeah.
I don't
Anybody
know.
hit the ball in there on a regular basis?
Oh, God, yeah. We had one member here named Murray McDonald, who was married to Peggy Flanagan, they were great members of the club. And he hit it in there so many times they called it McDonald's Quarry after the thing. You know,
I'm sure he did not like that name.
he got used to it. I'll tell you that. You know, I played a lot with him. It's funny.
I thank you both.
Thank you.
Thanks.